Hey guys, it is Matt and Jesse, and we are playing in an over-the-board tournament together. Tell us about this tournament, Jesse.
I kind of forgot about this tournament. So I like playing in the local Rochester club. Matt and I are in the same club. We have never actually been in the same group in a tournament before because there's always like the good player group where Matt is like the number one seed, and then there's like the rest of us. But for this tournament, we're kind of all together, and so there is a chance we have a chess goals showdown at some point. So I had to take a bye this first round just because I wasn't available to play. But we have 4 more weeks, and so today we're going over Matt's game in round one. So Matt is the one seed playing against a pretty strong opponent that neither of us recognize their name, Alejandro Decaire. I don't know how you say it,
Yep,
Alejandro.
and
And
Alejandro's super nice guy. He plays on chess.com, and he said that he looked up my games on chess.com, and he knew that we made a Caro-Kann course. So he said he specifically saw that I lost a game in this line. You can see the moves, right?
yep, all good.
Okay, so this is called the two knights variation, and our course recommends you take on e4. Knight takes e4, knight f6, and this invites what's called the Tartakower. What move do you usually see here from white?
I normally see takes. I think people a lot of times don't realize like why we're just accepting double pawns, and they're like, "Oh, easy thing to play against." But really, this is not really a weakness, as we kind of demonstrate in our course. Plus, we open up our bishop, we get to tuck our knight away. So I see takes a lot.
Yeah, me too. That's the most common move I see. So in this game, my opponent plays knight e to g5, and he's blitzing out his moves, by the way. And I'm thinking, oh, great. Here we go. Knight takes f7 is coming. But not only do we have this line in our course, we do have it a whole game in the Caro-Kann middle game course that JD and I did that goes through this line. And I didn't look at it today, but I've looked at this after one of my blitz games and kind of went in depth on this line. So I felt pretty comfortable just allowing the sack. So I play h6, takes, bishop c4, e6, knight e5. Now, do you remember from the course which way we're supposed to put the king?
I believe we go to G8. I feel like we took our king away, and then we can even like allow the knight to come into G6 and even like take the rook, and we'll just be happy taking the two pieces. So I'm pretty sure that's what I would play in a game.
Yep. And I think in all of the lines, you want to put the king on g8. And you're exactly right. So this knight usually goes to g6, takes the rook. Material is equal, but it's two pieces for a rook and a pawn. And usually the two pieces are better. So here Alejandro plays d4. And I was going back and forth between b5 and c5. Um, I ended up choosing c5. And the reason I like this move is because white's got a lot of pressure against the king. The knight on e5 is well placed, this bishop on the diagonal, and white's going to simply castle, put their rook on e1, and start to bring even more pressure. So I felt I needed to fight back quickly, and I chose c5 here. What do you think of this move?
Yeah, I wasn't looking at the moves, but C5 is the first move that jumped out to me because I feel like we're supposed to really challenge this knight right away. And so C5 opens up the C6 square where we can, sorry, I can't draw arrows, where we can like directly challenge the knight. We might see the knight sink in there, and then we can kick the queen over and just like let him take our rook. So that's the first move that stuck out to me. So I like it.
Yeah, and it's something that we do a lot in our Caro-Kann course. We look to play for the initiative. So this is putting that immediate double attack on d4. White has to think about, yeah, how do I handle that? So Alejandro plays c3. And I know he's a good attacking player. I'm looking at queen b3 ideas for white. I'm thinking, okay, what's the best way to deal with this? Do I just immediately take the pawn? Because I don't think he's going to take back right away. He may just ignore it and use that. Like, let's say I play c takes d. I was thinking, what if he castles? And then if I get greedy, what if he plays queen b3? Right now we see all this pressure on the diagonal, rook to d1 coming. I don't know if I want to deal with all that stuff.
He can also take your queen here.
Oh yeah, that's probably a good point too. Yeah. So at first I was like, why is Jesse going back there? Okay, so good thing I didn't play that. But I just thought, he's not going to take right away. Queen to b3 ideas are coming. So I decided knight c6, just going for additional kind of counterattack in the center, looking at d4, looking at e5.
Yeah, makes sense. Also defends your queen, so you can't hang it, so that's good.
Yeah, maybe that's the line I was looking at. I'll have to
All right,
edit
so
that out.
after knight g6, my first instinct is to just sidestep and play queen e8 and hit the knight. Did you look at that move, Matt?
Yeah, and we have a line like that in the course too. Um, so I was thinking, I ended up playing c takes d. I was thinking if he doesn't take the rook, I would probably play queen e8 next. So like if queen to b3, queen e8. That was kind of my idea. And then
Hmm.
usually white will end up just taking after queen e8.
Yep. And if we go back here, if we like try to save our rook, like we're just really boxing this king in. Like there's nowhere to go. This is such a weakness. This is just looks like it's a mate in three problem or something.
Yeah. That rook is never getting back into the game. That's really ugly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good point because a lot of people might wonder, well, why would you just voluntarily give the 2 points back in material? So I took d4. He took on h8. I was happy to see this because I think it makes it a little bit simpler to play if I don't have to keep thinking about what do I do with this knight on g6. I took back. C takes d. I was happy to see this because the king is still on e1. So this opens up the check, and the d4 pawn is also double attacked. What would you play here?
Um, I think I would probably just take the pawn myself
Go for queen
and
trade?
yeah, get the queen trade and try to prove that it's enough of an advantage. So like, let's say we do this and the dust settles here. So white's gonna have to take a move to defend against this fork. So I guess what's the material count? We have four pieces and a rook versus two pieces and two rooks. So we basically just have two pieces for the rook and maybe a slightly worse structure. So if I had to like put an eval on this, I would say black is probably slightly better, maybe like a -0.8 or something like that.
I think you're
Um,
right. It might even be larger because I feel like Stockfish 15 gives pretty large evals. Like it might say -2. I'm just going to peek at it.
yeah, I don't.
2.2 for black.
Oh wow. Okay, wow, that's a lot bigger than I thought.
And I think this line is really strong.
Hmm.
The reason I chose bishop to b4 check is I was thinking it creates more tactical chances. Um, and I was also analyzing if bishop to d2, which is what was played in the game. I kind of like this idea of queen takes d4. And if he takes this bishop, I was going to take the other bishop, the queen, because it slows down castling. And I thought this just looks a little bit annoying for white too.
It does look annoying, and black's gonna have to solve this problem of the dark square bishop immediately. Also, it kind of gets rid of that strong light squared piece that was kind of, or light square bishop that was bearing down on our weakness too.
Yeah, so my calculation went like this: bishop back to c3, maybe trying to trade off my knight. And then I could play e5. And conveniently, this knight guards the back rank. And like you mentioned, there's no light squared bishop attacking these
Mm.
open light squares. So that was kind of my plan and thinking, okay, maybe I can force him to go out of his way to get the queen trade and get a little bit better version of this endgame. That was the idea, at least.
Yeah, I like it. I wonder what's the difference in eval from this line versus grabbing the pawn immediately.
Let's look without queen e2. 2.3. So
Oh,
they're
okay.
essentially the same.
There we go.
So then he played bishop to b3 here. And this move kind of set off my tactical radar. I was thinking, okay, that doesn't seem quite right. And there is a tactic here. Do you see what it is?
I'm looking at just like taking, and then check and pick up this G2 pawn. I see. Otherwise, I guess we could just take this pawn too, or knight defense here, but that's getting a little shoddy. Our back rank is getting a little weak. I think I'd probably take check and win the G2 pawn.
There's something even better. So you're going down the kind of the same thought process that I had during the game.
Maybe we could check first. They block. I don't really like that because now we're kind of giving them a free. They can win this pawn back, the e6 pawn back. Um,
That one's nice though because you could ruin castling with the queens on the board. Like, that's kind of annoying for white.
that is true, yeah. Maybe we could even just develop a knight here, and if they take, that's mate.
Yeah, that's the move, knight e4.
Okay.
So the problem is white can't defend the bishop and the mate at the same time. So essentially the d2 bishop has to just drop for free. And I didn't spot
Yeah.
it right away, but after bishop to b3, it was a moment where I was thinking, okay, that looks a little funny. Let's spend some time on the tactics. So he castled here, and I think that's the best move because my king is still a little bit exposed. And I was trying to decide which way do I want to take this bishop. So something I've talked about before on the YouTube channel is, when you're up material, you always want to kind of think about what's the counterplay and the risk versus the reward. So now I'm in pure shut down the counterplay mode, right? I'm going to be +4 on material. What's the best way to shut down counterplay? And I see that queen wants to come out to h5. So what I had calculated at first was I wanted to play bishop takes d2 and use this bishop to kind of like control maybe potential squares for the white rooks. And then maybe I could, get something on this f2 pawn, like move my bishop, bring the rook over, to f8. But in the end, I decided that it's actually a little quicker to play knight takes d2 because I have this immediate fork and I don't have to be afraid of this queen check coming on e8. So he brought the queen out here. I think I could take the bishop if I want. And if queen check, I could move the king.
Yeah, there's no other checks.
Right, and then
Is
I
it
could
a
play something like queen d8 at the end.
yeah? Is it a little too risky to grab this rook?
I was
Oh
afraid
yeah,
of this. Yeah, with bishop c2 coming next.
yeah. And now it's like you really don't want to have to play this. Well, that's just a bad move, but
Oh, this might be a forced mate. g6,
yeah,
bishop takes.
or yeah, something like this, and
Mm-hmm.
then is that almost mate? Bishop defends.
Oh, queen
This
h7, yep.
okay.
Yeah, so there's play here I have to watch for. Um, so the move I played in the game after 17 queen h5, I played queen to c5. I kept this fork alive from my knight. I'm offering the queen trade, and after queen e8 check, I'm able to come back with the queen. So my idea here was wherever that white queen moves to, I'm going to try to gain a tempo before I grab this bishop or rook. So like if queen to g6 here, for example, I was looking at maybe using the knight to grab another tempo on the queen, or maybe now I grab the bishop and at least my queen's not on the d file where she's ready to be attacked by a white rook. And my opponent here took the queen. And I was really happy to see this because now it kind of shifts to endgame conversion mode. And after rook d1 takes, this is +4 in material. And I think it's instructive because even if I'm, let's say I don't have one of these two bishops, the bishop and knight combination does a really nice job controlling the squares of the white rooks. And having that third minor piece, the rooks are pretty much helpless.
Yeah, and now white structure is also pretty compromised. Like these pawns are going to be really hard to defend long term, especially with only rooks.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is definitely into conversion mode.
And if you look at the d1 rook, all of these squares are covered currently. So the rook can't infiltrate. I play e5, rook a4, bishop to b4. And my idea here is I'm trying to box this rook out. I might play a5. And then what I want to do next is bishop to e6 and grab this pawn.
Yeah, that's a really like a total buzzkill move. It's like it gets us one move, and there's just no way to dislodge this bishop. Like, where's this rook gonna go next? Like, all these are taken. Just have to go right back.
And I think the instructive thing here is Even though you look at this position and it feels it should be a pretty straightforward win for black, I'm still thinking every move, what is white's plan, and how can I shut that down as effectively as possible? So instead of going for this immediate bishop to e6, maybe his rook goes somewhere and gets a little bit of play, I wanted to trap the rook first. Just make it as annoying as possible for white.
Hmm.
So now bishop e6, rook back. And here I could take this pawn on b3, but then the rook sinks into d7. It's okay, but I just feel I don't need to allow that, so I play the knight up.
That's another glorious piece right there. Can never be taken away from that square.
Yeah, nice outpost. And now the rooks are in an awkward position where they don't really have any great moves because there's like forks everywhere. And he plays rook e3.
Oh, yep. Walks right into it.
Yeah, take, take, take. b6, back, rook f8. And my idea here with b6, instead of taking this pawn right away, allowing rook to b5, I wanted to secure the c5 square for my bishop, pointing at f2. So that's kind of how I'm going to create my play, put the bishop on c5, and put the rook on f8. After the rook trade and he takes it, and I'll go through this kind of quickly, but this is just kind of conversion mode. As long as I make sure that I don't lose all the pawns, it should be okay.
Even if you lose all the pawns, you could handle that one, right?
Yeah, bishop and knight.
Too much work though.
This was kind of like my last cool tactic. He played b4 here, and I pushed past. And after
Oh,
takes, these pawns kind of box out the king. h4, h5, takes a3, and he resigned here.
yeah. Cool. Yeah, it was a very smooth game. A good way to handle that early knight sack, kind of opening up the king. Yeah, well played.
Yeah, thanks. So this was round 1 of the Winter Swiss, and Jesse and I are hoping we play each other. If we do, you can expect some sort of hype video. Like, I'm going to go back to our adoption match. I'm going to go back to that Guess the Elo trash talk that I did. Like, we'll find some clips. That
Yeah, for sure. It'd be fun. So we have played over the board one time in a simul, which doesn't really count.
was a Slav,
Um,
right?
yeah, I think we played a Slav, and I like play an exchange Slav, and I played like some tricky line that I didn't actually know. Um, but I remember you handled it well, and you beat me.
I thought there was maybe like a moment where you had the advantage in that game. I think there was like a move where I messed up and maybe it worked for you.
Yeah, I'd have to go back, but I think I got a good position out of the opening, and then
Yeah.
once I actually had to think on my own, it went downhill.
Yeah. So we will be playing again. We'll both be playing next week, and you guys can expect more recaps. And right now, Black Friday sale, if you've made it this far in the video, check out the links in the description. Courses are 30% off, including the Caro-Kann courses. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you next time.
See ya.